for the citizens of Houston, and we look forward to working with the mayor to stand up another site tomorrow. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so very much, Susan. And then even the municipal chief of the municipal courts, Judge Elaine Marshall, is out here helping as well, and brought her team out here to be supportive. So I want to thank the city employees, all of the departments, for pulling together to making it work. Let me just make a few announcements, then I'm going to call on a few people to augment what I'm saying. So bear in mind, the water distribution, mass water distribution here today. There'll be another in the northeast sector. Mass water distribution here today. There'll be another in the northeast sector of the city on tomorrow, mass water distribution site as well. And again, that's in addition to these other smaller distribution sites that we're also kind of setting up using the district city council members to assist. Councilmember David Robinson at large is with us today. I know we're in Councilmember Amy Peck's district, and she's on her way this morning. With respect to the power outages, you know, a couple of days ago we had roughly 1.3 million customers in the Center Point service area without power. Today, that number in the city of Houston, what I'm told, is right at 4,800. So we've come a long way from hundreds of thousands of people being without power in the city. As of this morning, when I left the HEC Center, they told me the number is 4,800 without power. So that is a significant positive step. And then with regards to the water pressure, as you know, a couple of days ago, we were under 20 PSI, which is the regulatory requirement, without having to give a boil water notice. As of yesterday, we were averaging about 29 PSI. Today, we're averaging between 32 and 34. So the pressure is moving in the right direction. So we're going to continue to push that up. That's the average. There are some spots in the city that are still lingering right below 20 PSI, but on average it's about 32, 34. There's a process to go through because we'll continue to push the pressure, and Director Haddock can speak more to it when she comes up. But we want to push things up as high as we can. And then the goal is to try to be in a position to come out of this boil water notice Monday. That's the goal. Maybe a day or two either way, but that's the goal, and that's what we're seeking to do. What we are seeing, though, is good pressure around the city, but that we're continuing to do everything we can to push the pressure forward. I also want to highlight the fact that we recognize that there are a lot of pipes that have burst throughout the city of Houston. The last count that I received from Public Works and 311 is that we had as many as about 4,900 reported calls of pipes bursting across the city, and that number is probably even higher than that. So again, we're saying to individuals, please monitor your homes, your apartments, wherever you live. If there are reported pipes bursting, please report that. If, like last night, I received a call that there was some water coming from this building, and no one was there. I forwarded that information on to Director Haddock, and then pretty much somewhere about 11 p.m., I know Director Haddock and Public Works sent somebody out to turn off that water. So again, if you see water coming from a home, coming from a building, and no one is there, please report that up to us, and that will help. Once we turn that water off, it will help to keep the pressure up, because there are a lot of pipes that are bursting across the city, and we need to address that. I do want to say, recognizing that there are many families who are in situations where they don't have insurance, they don't have the financial means to make the repairs, or they've lost, their ceilings have fallen in, and furniture and other things have been damaged, and they are really stressing out in terms of how do we move forward, even after the power has been restored, water pressure up. And so we're working to put together a relief fund to assist people. I think I told you about that. Dave Lazar, who's the CEO of Center Point, I've asked him to head that, and he's agreed to head it. And then we'll be working, from all indications, we'll be working in collaboration with the county as well. And there'll be an announcement forthcoming on that. Really want to push that forward, and so I'm going to ask various people, companies, you name it, in our city, if you already start thinking about what you can do to contribute to this relief fund. I want to tell you it specifically will be aimed at addressing people who don't have insurance, don't have the financial means, their pipes burst, their homes were damaged, to give them some relief once, power is restored, water pressure is up. So please bear that in mind, and I suspect an announcement on that fund, a more detailed announcement, will be coming very soon. Because people's homes have been damaged, we recognize that there will be people putting out debris, probably as early, could be this weekend, going into next weekend. So I've been talking directly with solid waste, and we are getting ramped up to deal with that debris that we know will be being placed out on people's streets. We intend to resume some sort of normal schedule in terms of the recycling bin. We've been picking up the black bins, but to get right back on schedule to picking up the green bins as well, and then to prepare to pick up that added debris that will be placed outside of people's homes. So we recognize that's coming. We are preparing for that now because we want to pick it up as soon as we can. So again, I want to thank people in this city for being just very responsive, for opening up their arms. The shelters have remained open. Initially, they were scheduled for 72 hours, like at George R. Brown. We have kept that in place. We had dropped a night ago to below 600. Last night, the number went back up close to 700. And then I do want to thank the National Guard. They have come in and assisting over at the George R. Brown, and that's easing the pressure up on the city employees and others who are over there. So I certainly want to thank the State National Guard for assisting us at the George R. Brown. We will maintain that warming center, that site through today, probably going into overnight, and then we'll see how things fare tomorrow. So let me stop here. Let me first call on Director Haddock, and then I'll go from there.
Thank you, everybody. The men and women of Houston Public Works continue to work around the clock to be sure we get this water system back up to fully operational. We made great progress yesterday, and I want to thank each one of you for doing your part in helping reduce those leaks by shutting them off. I do need to remind everybody we remain in a boil water notice. It is very important that you understand that and that you make sure that any water that you're going to use for consumption, to drink, to brush your teeth, to wash your face, that you boil that water before you use it. Bring it to a full rolling boil for 2 minutes. As far as other uses around the house, it's perfectly fine to use it to flush your toilet, to take showers. For those people with a weakened immune system or children who may not understand, we need to make sure that they do not drink the water while they are using it for showers and things of that nature. Now let me report on the water system. Yesterday our goal was to get to an average citywide system pressure of 30 psi by the end of the day.
Yes, you will.
At the end of the day yesterday we had just pushed right under 35 psi. We're making really good progress, but we still had pockets where we had pressures that were still down around 20 in different areas of town. We spent the night recharging our groundwater storage tanks and our storage tanks, and this morning we pushed a second wave of pressure through the city, and we are seeing results throughout the city that right now the mayor said we're between 32 and 34 citywide. Those pockets of low pressure are coming up this morning as well. So we're asking each one of you to pay attention to it, to be patient with us. We very much appreciate your patience. But if you are still having low pressure at the end of the day today, we're asking that you do reach out to us and contact us to make sure that you know. What you're going to see as this pressure comes back through the city is that people in one-story homes and first and second story are going to see this pressure. But people in buildings that are further up, third and fourth story, it's going to be longer for that pressure to get back to serving the full water that you're used to in those upper floors. Our downtown buildings are beginning to see pressures restore to them as well. We got news just before we came on that the Hilton downtown and our federal facilities downtown both have sufficient pressure to be able to run their internal repressurization system. So it's all coming back online. The medical center reported to us late yesterday that they had enough pressure to repressurize their systems and keep doing what they needed to do. So we are making steady, sustainable progress in bringing the system back up, and we are confident that we'll be able to maintain this progress. It's going to take time to do it in a measured manner such that we don't pull ourselves out of this and then have something break and go back in. And so we're taking this very deliberate action to make sure we can achieve getting out and staying out of the boil water notice, and that our pressures will not fluctuate when we get there. I'll be available for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Haddock. And I want to thank Public Works, Director Haddock, your entire team, staff members who have stayed around the clock 24 hours because that's what it has taken. So I really want to thank them for just being laser focused. I want to thank people in the city of Houston for being patient. This has been tough. It's been a rough week, okay? So let me thank the people in this city, businesses, homeowners, people living in apartments, you name it, people in our jails even. I want to thank them for being very, very, very patient for this week. Because when you're having to deal with power outages and you couple that with low, if no water pressure at all, it has been a tough week. So I do want to thank you. The other thing, before I bring up the next person, I want to remind people on damage in your homes or in buildings. I know people want to be quick to make the repairs. I want you to make the repairs. Please document the damage in your home, okay? And what I mean by that, use your video, take pictures, because we are under a city state of emergency, county state of emergency. The state has declared an emergency, and the federal government has declared an emergency. So to the extent there's a possibility of being reimbursed for your costs, okay, please document the damages in your home. Ceiling has fallen in, take pictures of it. Furniture being damaged, take pictures. Structures having been damaged where plumbers having to come in and really do, damage your homes to fix your situation. Document the damages to your home, to your apartments, to your buildings. Please do that. That will help us as we move forward. Now let me bring on Chief Pena from the fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The Houston Fire Department, the men and women of the Houston Fire Department continue to be focused on their mission, which is protection of life, safety, and property conservation. We have our numbers are steadily dropping from over 3,000 calls per day just a few days ago. We're right under 2,000 calls today for the last 24 hours. The primary number of call incident types are fires and, again, medical emergencies and a lot of too many carbon monoxide type calls. So, again, we want to reiterate those safety messages. Be careful what you use, what you burn inside your home to try to stay warm. We're expecting another freezing night tonight, and we want you to be cautious. We don't want you to lose your life or risk your health just for unnecessarily. It's all hands on deck for the fire department, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership as well. But it's all hands on deck for us. We have personnel out here distributing water. We even have our recruits out here. It's part of their community service, Mayor. So this is a good way for them to spend some time in serving their community. And I want to thank the departments of every one of the directors that's back here. Police Department, Public Works, all the public employees for the incredible support that they provided for the fire department to ensure that we are able to do our job and serve this community as well. And I can't say enough about the city employees, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. And yes, these sites have been staffed by city employees, and I mean, I am so proud of this city. We don't look. There's going to be plenty of time for us to figure out what went wrong and accountability. But right now, our personnel are focused on what's in front of us. We're doing what we can with the tools that we have in front of us, and we're getting the job done. So very proud of the work that they're doing, and thank you to the city of Houston. Stay safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Pena. Now let me call on Chief Acevedo, HPD.
Thank you, Mayor. High five. This is starting to feel like a pep rally. I feel like I'm back in high school. Nobody invited me in college, so I mean, Mayor, good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for your leadership and guidance, and to Carol Haddock and her team especially, thank you, because water's starting to come back up, and it's a lifeblood. So I want to give Carol a big shout out. The police department's completely deployed and mobilized, continues to be mobilized. Happy to report that throughout this entire operational period, starting at 6 p.m. on Sunday, we have really kept up with our call load. We have no calls stacked up. We're completely operational, but there's a word of warning that I need to give out, and that is, as disasters happen, there will be a lot of con artists coming to your homes, especially the elderly. Be aware of these contractors. Make sure you know who you're dealing with. Make sure you get identification from who you're dealing with. Make sure that you scrutinize who you're dealing with, because there will be a lot of fake contractors coming around that will take your money and provide nothing. The last thing I want to put out there is that all of our highways within the city of Houston are open. They're in good shape, but tonight we will have a freeze again, the last freeze, thank God. So tonight, if you go out at night, especially in the middle of the night, just use caution, especially in areas that normally don't get sun, elevated areas. We could have some refreezing if there's any water left. And lastly, to our police officers and the men and women of the Houston Police Department, I want to thank them. It's been all hands on deck, like the fire department and everyone else you see back here. Not only have we been keeping law and order, we've been securing these sites. And yesterday, Carol Haddock asked us, really asked us to go out, her and her team, and our men and women actually went around the city and continue to go around the city reporting water pipe that are bursted, and most importantly, I've been told they're actually shutting off water pipes. So there's an old saying in law enforcement, other duties as assigned. Director Haddock gave us those duties, and we took it very seriously. So thank you again. That's my report.
Thank you, Chief. And I will want to say that there were 2 NBA basketball games scheduled for this weekend, starting tonight and tomorrow. In talking with the Houston Rockets, Tad Brown, and also in conversations, they're in conversation with the NBA. The game for tonight will not take place because we're still dealing with these issues. So I want to thank them for their sensitivity, and the game tomorrow is somewhat tentative. So I want to thank them. And then I want to say, once a Houstonian, always a Houstonian, even though you may not be in the city of Houston. So I do want to acknowledge the former Rocket players Westbrook and James Harden, who have both called and made contact and are offering support to the city as well. So once you've been in Houston, regardless of where you go, the spirit of Houston still remains alive. And so, Jason, I don't know if there's anything else on Centerpoint. Jason with Centerpoint.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So we're pleased to announce that over 99% of our system has been restored. Our gas and electric operators continue to make repairs, and we expect most of our outages to be restored by tonight. So we do appreciate your leadership, Mayor. We appreciate the leadership from the various communities and other county leaders amongst our electric footprint. We will continue to work with you, even though the game's canceled tonight. We're still in play, Mayor. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And then lastly, before we take questions, let me say this. For many people in our city with means, with insurance, this week has been a significant inconvenience, but they have the means and the ability to quickly transition and move forward. For many people in our city who are already on the margins, who had very little, if any, disposable income, and were fighting every day just to keep a roof over their head and food in their refrigerator. This past week has been a major event and has really disrupted their lives that were already on the margins. As the lights come back on and the water pressure goes up, we want to be sensitive to the fact that for many of these individuals, many of these families, they will be in crisis mode for weeks and months to come. and we have to be very focused on doing everything we can to assist these persons, these families within our city. Like in every major storm, and what I have seen since I have been mayor, the storms come and the storms go. But for people who are already on the margins of life, it takes them a lot longer to recover. And so let's do everything that we can to keep focus on them. I want to ask people in this city, with regards to the relief fund, to the extent that you can, once the details are made available, please do what you can to assist these families, individuals without insurance, individuals and families without the financial means, in order to get back on their feet, because the reality is, until the least of the people in our city recover, we are still not yet fully recovered. So having said that, let me stop. And any of these persons, lastly, make sure you get a licensed plumber, okay? Not just anybody that shows up and say that they can use a hammer and a nail, okay? Make sure you get a licensed plumber, and then they will know how to navigate the system in order to get your home repaired as quickly as possible without you paying out a lot and not getting much at all. So please be mindful of who's knocking on your door and soliciting your business. We'll take questions. The question is, how many people without water are currently without water?
So with well, first off, we'll start off by saying that our Kingwood system and our Willow Chase system stayed fully functional the entire time. Population-wise, I mean, it was the majority of the city of Houston that did not have access to water from Tuesday night through Wednesday afternoon. At this point, everybody should have at least a trickle that is on a ground floor, first floor, second floor. Above that, we may still have some areas that do not yet have water pressure sufficient to those upper floors. We will have to get back and answer that question on numbers of people. But we do not have any pockets of town that do not have water being delivered to those areas of town right now.
The water pressure continues to go up. The good news is that in most parts of the city of Houston, we are well above the 20 PSI. That is the good news. And then through the course of the day, the system should be even greater pressure put in the system. There's no question. There's no problem with power outages. All generators are functioning. So that's good. So the power is good at all of our systems. And so things are good. We're just trying to get it up as quickly as possible, because before you can take those samples, we need to be at 20 PSI across the city in every geographical area. And then it takes about, let's say, 12 hours, because they want to see the system holding at that level above 20 PSI. And then we pull the sample and submit those samples to TCEQ, and that's another 24 hours. So that's why we are saying, even though we are well above 20 PSI in the city, the boiling notice still remains in place until the samples are taken. TCEQ reviews those and then gives us the green light. That's why we're planning these water distributions through tomorrow and probably on Sunday as well.
Mayor, KTRK. Mayor, the White House says they were in touch with you this week about Houston's needs due to the winter storm. What did you tell them, and what help is FEMA sending, and when?
They are sending, and they have sent water already into the area, which is a good thing. They asked whether or not that there are other generators that we need. At this point, we don't need any more generators. We are good on that front. I did indicate that the National Guard is at the George R. Brown, helping out with the warming center, the shelter that's over there. And then what we've said is that there are a number of Texas mayors, for example, that's sending letters to the White House and to FEMA asking for assistance for people whose homes have been damaged, businesses have been damaged, to try to get reimbursed as much as possible in terms of the cost that they are having to come out, having to put out from their pockets. So the White House has been very, very encouraging. They've also inquired about things that can be done to not be in this situation again. and that's going to require some further discussions and conversations. I did alert them to the bill that I filed in 2011 when I was in the legislature and serving on state affairs. It was a bill requiring the Public Utility Commission to require ERCOT to maintain adequate reserve to prevent blackouts. That was the caption for the bill that was filed in 2011. And so I will say that bill never got a hearing by the legislature. Never got a hearing. It would have prevented what has happened across the state this week. What I've said to some of the state representatives, you need to dust off my bill and you need to refile it, because it's not about just holding hearings. It is about recognizing that in the state of Texas, ERCOT is a closed system. And that's the way leadership for a number of years have wanted it to be. When you need generation and you don't have enough generation in the state of Texas, you can't get it from outside of the state when people want to help you. It's a closed system. And the way the system works right now, when there's a demand on supply, on energy, the price of that energy goes up to like $9,000. It's a high cost. And so that system needs to be changed. It needs to be winterized, because the system is currently designed for the summer. It is not designed for the winter. So there are a number of things that need to take place in terms of some substantive structural reforms. And I hope that people will go back and pull that, knock the dust off that bill, and will refile.
Mayor, you said in a TV interview that you have not been in touch with the governor at all. Have you actually reached out to him personally, and has the state given you any resources at all during the storm?
We have the National Guard that's in town, that's working at the Georgia Brown. I cannot think of additional. TxDOT has been very, very helpful. So between TxDOT and the National Guard, they have provided some assistance.
And have you personally reached out to the governor or made an attempt to sort of coordinate anything with him personally?
I have been very laser focused on dealing with the situation right here in the city of Houston. The White House has reached out to me several times, okay, and we've had those communications.
You also said the boil water notice was most likely going to extend through Monday. Is that still, I guess, the current status at the moment? Yeah,
and the way we're looking at it is that once the system stabilizes and you have the pressure point is 20 above in every in every sector of the city, then normally you wait about 12 to 24 hours for it to stabilize.
35 PSI to come out of it.
It has to be 35 PSI to come out of the boil water status. And then you pull the samples, you send the samples to TCEQ, they wait for 24 hours, and then they give you the green light. So if you kind of look at that timeline, unless the state is willing to waive some of that requirement, you look at the timeline, you're looking at probably at the earliest Sunday, assuming everything goes well by the end of the day. But conservatively speaking, I'm saying be prepared for Monday, and it can be a day or two on either side.
And then last question, you said the water pressure, I guess, for the third and fourth floor places will be kind of returning last. Do you, either maybe Director Haddock, do you have a sense of when water pressure will be fully restored, back fully to normal, and even those top floor apartments could get full water pressure?
So many of these apartments designed to ride off the city's pressure in our water system, and so really they need at least 40 to 45 PSI for the pressure to be up to those levels. As we continue to build pressure over the course of the day, we're focused right now on getting the system stable above 35, and then we'll continue to build pressure beyond that. But I would expect that by the end of the weekend that we'll be able to have that back up to those upper levels in the apartments as well.
Ms. Carroll, last question here. I think this may be for you. What about, I know this is maybe early, but what about everything lost in refrigerators? A viewer asked what can be done to possibly compensate the loss.
You know, that is definitely not something I'm going to be addressing.
Had to ask. Sorry, Mayor.
And that's the point that I'm making in terms of the purpose of the fund. For people with means, you know, they will throw out everything that's in their refrigerator and then they'll go to the store and they'll purchase. For people who took their last dollar to purchase what's in their refrigerator and now they have to throw that out, they're going to be looking for the money to go back and purchase the things they need for their families. That puts them in a worse situation post winter storm than they were prior to, when they were already on the margin. So very sensitive to that. That's the purpose in large part of the relief fund, is to provide them with some degree of relief. And the second question will be, how soon can we get the relief fund going? And that's why the chair of that relief fund, Dave Lazar, is already in place. He's ready to go. My hope is that now in working with the county that we can put together some advisors by the end of the day and that fund can get going.
Mayor, you also said there have been 4,900 pipes burst around the city. Can we just get maybe a slightly more in-depth breakdown? Like, is that all across the city, and have those been patched up at this point? You know, any more details about that?
Well, what I'm getting is coming from Public Works and 311. Carol, you may have some more information on that.
So we've seen very few breaks in our system because most of our pipes are larger and underground. So we have less than a couple hundred breaks in our system. We have received almost 3,000 calls by the end of the day yesterday for water breaks, and the majority of those are water breaks on the private side of the system, so in homes and in businesses that we're responding to, helping them get the water turned off to make those repairs. I think that's a very low number, and it's going to continue to rise, and I think many people will just get the repairs performed without calling 311. I mean, they'll go through the right process, but they won't. So we'll weeks later, we'll be able to go back and combine permits, fees, and everything that came in, as well as calls that came in, to get those numbers.
And I will tell you that number is higher, probably much higher in terms of the pipes that burst. For example, I know that I'm not in that number because I did not call. You know, so there are other city council members whose pipes burst. They are not in that number. So the number is, I know the number is higher. Before I left the HEC this morning, what the number that they gave me based on what they were able to look at from 311 was that 48, 4,900 number. But I know that number is considerably higher. And then with the impact on the water pressure in our system, that's one of the main things. And then there are still breaks that exist in our city that have yet to be reported, and the water is still running. So I know that's a fact because I got that call from last night at a place that was abandoned, but the pipes burst and the water was coming out. So they had to go out close to midnight last night and turn that off. So there are breaks that are all over the city, and I anticipate there will be more. But what I'm simply asking people to do is to take pictures, document the breaks, take pictures, video, you name it, because that will add to the city's overall cost when it comes to seeking recovery from the federal government.
And have you heard any details from the Biden administration about what sort of aid you can expect? Any preliminary conversations about the amount of money, or just any details about that?
I can tell you that they have offered whatever help that they can, and that they want to stay in close communication with all of us to see exactly what's needed. And they are pledging to move as quickly as they can to provide assistance. So they have been very close to the situation. In my conversation on yesterday with the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, it was on a conference call with a number of other mayors. But before he even got started, he singled me out before he even got started, to offer, number one, his well wishes for people here in the city of Houston and throughout the state, and is offering whatever support that they can give. So I know that Houston and Texas is very much on their minds, and I certainly want to appreciate the White House, the secretaries, FEMA for just saying, look, we are here. We want you here. We want you to know that we're here. We're available, and we want to help. Just tell us what we can do, and then we will act on it. So I feel very good about the responses. Oh, let me be. We've been joined by Councilmember Peck. We're in District A, and so the council member was out. In fact, before I go any further, let me bring on Councilmember Peck because I saw her in her pictures out handing out water on yesterday. So, Councilmember Peck, we're in your district.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you putting this on in District A. There's a lot of people who need this water. District A, still a lot of people are without water today. And so I'm very thankful for this water distribution. We are going to do 3 other water distributions this afternoon at 1 o'clock at Trini Minden Hall, White Oak Conference Center, and Carverdale Community Center. Thanks to the mayor giving us all this water to distribute to everyone. Thank you.
And I want people to know we're at a major distribution site here, but the council member and the other district council members, they're getting another supply today as well. So if you don't get it here, there are places all across the board. My chief of staff just told me that the word is that the Biden administration will sign the major declaration for Texas today. And they have also indicated that the president intends to be visiting Texas soon. So Jasper, maybe he's listening to the press conference, and it's just good to have a good partner that you can reach out to. I want to thank Julie Rodriguez, who's the intergovernmental person for the White House, who's been in constant communication with me as well. So really appreciate the support that they are giving, not just to Houston, but to all of us in the state of Texas. Any other questions?
Final question, anyone?
Chief, 1 second.
Councilmember Robinson reminded me something I forgot. When we're talking about fraud and these contractors, do not give them your social security number. That's going to be for identity theft. Please do not give anybody your social security number. And one last thing, the mayor's the good cop, Director Haddock's the good cop, I'll be the bad cop. I have a 12-year-old at home this morning, hadn't showered in 4 days. We put the timer on for 2 minutes. Please do not take 10, 15-minute showers. 2 minutes. Lather up, rinse off, and get out of the shower. That's all I've got.
Yeah, please do that. Don't forget about the pets. Yeah, all of them. Don't forget about our friends. All right, look. Let me just say this. This has been a rough week, and someone asked me, Mayor Harvey, how do you compare? Each storm is different. You've heard us say that many times. Each storm is different, but this has been a rough week. The good news is that we have not been in it by yourself. We all have been in it together, and we're going to get through it together. And then on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit on Thursday. Very cloudy, very, very cold, rainy, sleet, snow, you name it. But now on Friday, the sun is shining. It's a reminder that no matter how hard and tough it gets, this too shall pass, and we'll get on the other side. Just remember your neighbors. Remember those who are less fortunate than yourself. And to those families, to those moms, to those dads, to those kids who are still cold, hungry, don't know how they're going to make it, where they're going to live, looking at a ceiling that's come down, to those seniors, simply want them to know that you are not in this alone, that we are all in this together, and we'll get through it together. So again, to the city employees, as much as people sometimes vilify government, you know what I've learned? Government is bad until you need it. To everybody that vilifies government, government is bad until you need it. Because you know who's out here? It's not the private sector. These are government employees who have braved the weather, the sleet, the snow, the storm, These are government employees. So as much as people talk about and against government, government is bad until you need it. And then when you need it, you want it to show up. Okay? So let's just bear that in mind, because when it comes to disasters and storms, this is important. I do want to thank these volunteers. I want to thank Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Again, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I want to thank them. And for those who are not familiar, this is part of the Divine Nine, 1906. And your mayor just happens to be an Alpha. So I want to thank the brothers of Alpha for stepping up and for helping us out. Okay, Kenny, is there anything else? Kenny, Jason coming? Anything else from Centerpoint?
You said it all. Anything you need, we're here to help.
All right, thank you all so very much. Enjoy. We're going to continue to help these people.
And you have been listening to Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner and other Houston city leaders talking about the fallout from this Houston freeze, particularly the water situation. And at least we're getting a little bit of sunlight today. They did this press conference from the Del Mar Stadium, where a mass water distribution site is open. It actually opened an hour earlier than originally scheduled, because cars have been lining up around the block starting about 6:30 this morning. I don't know if we've got any video of that, but our reporter Adam Bennett saying that line backed up down Magnum, all the way down the road and up into the 610 feeder, so maybe a mile or more. Important note, tomorrow there will be another mass water distribution site on the northeast side, and there continue to be smaller city distribution sites, one in each of the 11 city council districts. We did ask, the city did not have any numbers on how many people were without power, or without water rather. The public works director did say that the majority of Houstonians did not have water from Tuesday to Wednesday night. Some quick good news in Houston: power outages now down to 4,800 versus the 1.3 million customers that were without power earlier in the week. Centerpoint saying now that 99% of power has been restored. Because of the pipe leaks, and there have been a lot of them, folks will have plenty of heavy trash. That's something we know from after hurricanes and flooding. The mayor is coordinating with the solid waste department to ramp up picking up heavy debris. And one last quick note: President Biden will sign the major disaster declaration for Texas today, and we are hearing that he plans to come visit as well. If you want additional information, as always, go ahead and download the KHOU 11 News app, and we can push you alerts. We've got a lot more information. We'll have that for you on 11